It's about leading from alignment. It's about being grounded in your values, transparent in your action, and consistent in how you show up. It's about leading with integrity, not limitation. And really, truly what that word means, integrity. Why does this matter now? Well, according to workerscompensation.com, authentic leaders are self-aware, transparent, grounded in ethics, and consistent in their actions. They don't hide behind roles, they embody their values. And Deloitte's 2023 leadership study found that teams led by authentic leaders had 20% higher performance and 30% lower turnover. You're a CEO, entrepreneur, or business owner that can't seem to figure out what is blocking you from attaining the next level of growth in your business? Then listen up. I'm Maria De Lorenzo Reyes. I've taken what I've learned in 30 years working inside multi-million-dollar corporations, building my own business, and consulting my clients, and discovered 5 themes that stop a business from scaling. I've created a tool to help you get the answers you need to get unstuck and unlock the next level of growth. Head over to scale.mariadr.com and click the link to get your custom Scale Factor Formula scorecard when this episode is over. Hey everybody, welcome to Finding the Upside. I'm your host, Maria De Lorenzo Reyes, and today I'm continuing with part 2 of the Rebel Leader series. Last week we talked about awakening the rebel within, the one who's done with outdated models of leadership and ready to show up differently. Today, I'm getting real about what happens when you actually try to do that. When you step into leadership your way, authentically, honestly, and feel the weight of the system still asking you to shrink and doing it the old way. I'm talking about breaking the mold. And, especially in leadership, doing it without losing your own identity in the process. So today's episode is for anyone who has ever looked around a boardroom, a Zoom call, or even in their own reflection and thought, do I really need to lead like that to be successful? Yeah, I know. I lived it. In so many organizations, the default leadership style is still rooted in that model that doesn't serve most people anymore. I'm talking about that command and control, always be tough energy. The kind where emotions are liabilities and vulnerability is considered a weakness. One recent article in The Australian described it as the heroic male strategic archetype that still dominates not just corporate culture but also education today. And it shows up everywhere, from leadership development programs to performance reviews. But here's the truth. That mold wasn't built for most of us, especially not women or neurodivergent thinkers or anyone who leads with heart and empathy. In so many organizations, we still see that model rooted in what doesn't serve people. We talked about this way back in one of my first episodes, episode 5, when we explored how corporate norms don't always make space for real humans. We talked about bringing humanity into leadership and how that's not normalized. And that's something that I see regularly. I've worked with 1,600 companies, and I often see leaders try to squeeze into this mold that doesn't fit. And when they do, they lose their edge. It's the very thing that made them powerful and influential in the first place. So what does this authentic human leadership look like? Authentic leadership isn't about being nice. It's about being in alignment. It's about leading from alignment. It's about being grounded in your values, transparent in your action, and consistent in how you show up. It's about leading with integrity, not limitation. And really, truly what that word means, integrity. Why does this matter now? Well, according to workerscompensation.com, authentic leaders are self-aware, transparent, grounded in ethics, and consistent in their actions. They don't hide behind roles, they embody their values. And Deloitte's 2023 leadership study found that teams led by authentic leaders had 20% higher performance and 30% lower turnover. So for all of you who are looking for the metrics, there they are. So why is it so hard to lead this way? Why does it escape us? Why do we fall back into that stupid box of leadership that doesn't work? Okay, let's be honest. The pressure to conform is real. It's still there. And it shows up in really sneaky ways. You mimic other leaders just to play the game. You hesitate to show emotion because you're worried it'll be seen as weak. You feel like you're too much or not enough all the time. And if you're a woman or someone who doesn't fit the dominant mold, you've probably been caught in those leadership double binds. Be strong but not aggressive. Be warm but not too soft. The tension is everywhere. All right, so let's talk about a few things of how to lead without losing yourself. You really need to have the courage, and I know that's an overused word these days. Some people are like, yeah, I know. But have the courage to define success on your own terms, to stand strong enough to stand outside that box. Root the way you lead into your own values and strengths. Lead with your real story, the way you've been led, and how you respond. Let vulnerability serve your power and align with how you show up with what you stand for. You, of course, need a support circle that reflects your values. So looking around and finding you don't have it is often your first signal to change your location or your job. And also define the definition of performance. What does performance mean to you? If there's nothing else that you take from today's episode, let it be this. Authentic leadership isn't about being less professional. It's about being more human. We've got to break this stigma where we forget or just don't act like we're dealing with human beings because we think it will be less professional. I just don't get that. I'm baffled by that. When you break the mold, you make space for possibility, not just for yourself, but for everyone who follows your lead. And here's the thing. Once you start leading from truth, you start to see the cracks in the system, how disconnected teams really are, how much trust has eroded, and how performance starts to suffer when the culture isn't aligned. Yeah, these terms, connection, trust, culture, all are the foundation for high-performing teams and successful businesses. So, in part 3 of the Rebel Leader series, I'm going to be talking about the next frontier for the Rebel Leader, reconnection. How to repair, rebuild, and rehumanize our teams after disruption without the fake toxic positivity or leadership theater, putting on an act. Because real rebel leadership isn't just about being different. It's about leading in a way that brings people back together. I hope you've enjoyed this episode. Please share this with another rebel leader like you, and I'll see you on the next episode of Finding the Upside. Bye, friends. All right, so I hope you loved this episode and found it valuable. Thanks for hanging out with me. And if you'd be so kind, if you know someone else that this will help, please share this episode with them. Just grab a link for this specific episode, text it to a friend or colleague so it can help more people like you. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will see you next time for more entrepreneurial goodness. Same time, same place on the Finding the Upside podcast.